So I had wanted to make this video. There was a quote by Anton LaVey that was posted on Instagram that I found very inspirational, and it had to do with the concept of casting a curse. And it had to do with how people lash out. The people that are real thorns in your side lash out at you because they have an intense envy of you. And it doesn't matter what that envy is, but they have an intense envy of you. And as you can see by I've pointed out a number of times how internet trolls are high on the narcissistic spectrum. They're very high. They're basically just predatory narcissists, is what they are, and some of them are psychopaths. And I think you see an explosion of this recently with the lack of personal intimacy. But the thing is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm a firm believer in the fact that people make culture, culture does not make people. And I have a feeling that the people have become more narcissistic due to sexual selection. Sexually selecting narcissistic personality traits. And I think that started with the empowerment movements of the 60s and prior. People wanted, quote, strong, empowered women. People wanted the guy that was, just a dick, essentially. And that's what has been sexually selected for in the United States and throughout the world, for the most part. Especially in the more industrialized nations like the USSR and the United States, I think, where you've seen a lot of that. Now, some cultures are just like that, and I won't name those cultures because I don't want to be banned, but let me get into this. So what you need to understand is narcissism. A lot of the people that you deal with, especially these online narcissistic abusers, what they suffer from is basically an innate inferiority complex. They're never good enough. That's why they behave as perpetual children. They're the child that could never be good enough, and they're perpetually stuck as children. And again, I do think nature plays a more important role than nurture in this. I believe that these people have this ingrained in them. Now, the thing is, Satanism, the religion of Satanism, as it was originally devised by Anton Szandor LaVey, is sort of the antithesis to narcissism in many ways. In a way, you could say that a Satanist was kind of like okay, how Satanism works is the concepts of Satanism, the philosophical concepts of Satanism, were used to identify narcissists, okay, which are, psychic vampires, and to help to curtail narcissistic traits in the individual Satanist while maintaining the concept of self-deification. Unfortunately, the concept of self-deification lends itself to a lot of hubris. People forget that Anton LaVey's point was, whereas Aleister Crowley said every man and every woman are a star, Anton LaVey pointed out that, yes, this is true. Every man and every woman are a star, but stars have varying degrees of brightness. And that's important to understand. Another water finds its own level is a common phrase that you will see in classical satanic circles, maybe in modern ones. I don't really know of any modern, I don't hang around any modern Satanists because the whole religion has gone pretty liberal and pretty narcissistic. A lot of the people that are practicing Satanists are very self-absorbed at this point and do not actually take into consideration the totality of the concepts of Satanism and the moral duties. Which is why I've included in the description of this video the 9 satanic statements, the 9 satanic sins, and the 11 satanic rules of the earth, so people can see what I'm saying here. Satanism is, in essence, a way to basically nip narcissism in the bud, to get at it before it gets at you. Now, what I'd like to point out is you can see the inferiority complex in the people that attack you, okay? So you can see this, as you can tell by my harassers, They're envious of my friendships with women. They're envious of the fact that attractive women seek me out. They're envious of the fact that, I'm thin. I'm more thin than they are. When people that are morbidly obese and could die any second as a result of their morbid obesity are telling me that I need to go to the gym, okay, that was a common theme, that I needed to go to the gym because they didn't like the way I looked for some reason. But if you look at them, they're obviously severely morbidly obese in some cases, to the point where they're ready to keel over and die from their morbid obesity. And that's the thing that needs to be understood. When people are doing personal attacks against you, a lot of times they are personally attacking you for traits that they do not like in themselves. That's a common theme. This is why, and the way a narcissist operates, a narcissist can never admit wrongdoing. As you can see with their treatment of Adrastia, or Mary, they can't even admit to themselves that it is literally morally reprehensible to torture, psychologically and emotionally torture a defenseless woman through internet harassment and literally mailing her objects of harassment and constantly emailing her and things like that. They cannot even admit that it's wrong to continually harass and intimidate a defenseless woman with schizoaffective disorder, because in their mind, they have to be right. They have to be right, and this is the same theme that has gone on with me. They can't admit they're wrong, and they can't even admit that it is wrong to fabricate a false criminal record against somebody and promote it as fact. And the reason they do this is because they have to tear people down to make themselves feel, it's like narcissistic supply. This is how they get their narcissistic supply, through sadism. But as LaVey points out, a sadist is not really a sadist. They're a masochist, because they're setting themselves up for a great deal of metaphorical pain in the future. And that's, I want to make sure that people know that it's metaphorical. But the point is that if you, like, I went to school for criminal justice and I studied criminology. I've always had an interest in true crime. What you'll notice about internet trolls is they seem to operate very similar to serial killers. And like I said, I was not too much into narcissism prior to coming across it. Actually, somebody that was a carnivore, she was following the carnivore diet and followed me because I was a vegan. And she gave me a link to narcissism, narcissistic abuse, etc. I believe it was Dr. Grande she gave me a link to. And it started helping me to understand the predicament I was in and how it does not seem to be a winnable situation for me. But it will be. It will turn out to be a winnable situation, because the fact is, in reality, reality reigns supreme. But as you see, these people have to operate at all facets of my life to try and destroy every aspect of my life. They've sent people over my apartment. They've sent people to find out what kind of car I drive. They mentioned the car I drive on their little podcast that they pretend is a radio program. And this is what they do to build up their false self. See, their false selves, if you notice, every one of them has a very powerful false self. But the weakness is so evident. You can't look like a dull-witted, morbidly obese person and tell somebody to go to the gym. That's not good optics. Terrible optics. Okay? It looks terrible. It looks very bad when a morbidly obese person that probably looks like they spend a lot of time drooling on themselves is telling a normal sized person. At the time, I think I might have been a touch overweight. I was probably 8 pounds overweight. But to tell somebody that's about 8 pounds overweight that they need to go to the gym and lose weight, when the person saying it is at the very least 150 to 200 pounds overweight, is hilarious. And the thing is, the reason they had to do everything they could to turn my friend against me, resorting to even paying her. And that's what I knew something was wrong with that from the beginning, because somebody doesn't go the whole time and not say one negative thing about somebody. Like she had never said one negative thing about me ever, and then all of a sudden it's a torrential downpour of negative remarks. In fact, I think people might remember that it followed this whole rigmarole that I had stated. I didn't know what had happened. I even assumed perhaps that she had believed that she was possessed by the devil, because she's a devout Catholic. I didn't know what had happened, but now I do. She was corrupted by the love of money, okay, and the love of attention and things of that nature. And that's another thing that you have to look at with narcissists. A lot of them are failing in the Maslowian hierarchy of needs in belongingness. They don't belong to any particular group. What I've seen with these communal narcissists, though, is because they're so bad at being accepted by the public at large, they create their own narcissistic echo chambers where they go hunting for people, like Adrasdia, like Mary. They've been tormenting her for a year. They've been tormenting me for almost 8 years now. Okay? In the comments section of my videos, on Facebook, same trolls. They don't even, and I think they want you to know who they are, actually. They're false selves. They're fake avatars. They want you to know who they are. Some of them are shared accounts and things of that nature. It's absolutely ridiculous, the whole nature of this. Now, I was unaware of this because I'm not an internet kind of guy. I'm just not, okay? But the level that they take this to is all a defense mechanism to protect themselves from who they really are, which are pathetic, weak people. People might remember when I was challenged, one of them challenged me to a karate match. I promptly accepted the karate match. There is no way that any one of these people is beating me in a karate match, particularly a full contact karate match. It's not going to happen. Not going to say nobody could beat me in a full contact karate match, because a lot of people could. I'm in much better shape now because I've realized that I do have to be in absolute top condition for my health, but also in case I have to protect myself, because they're sending people over my house. They have people threatening to do me harm through emails on the public. You know, people are threatening to murder me. They've been threatening to murder me, and I need to be prepared to protect myself. Thankfully, in the state of Pennsylvania, I do have the legal right to protect myself, and that's a good thing, okay? But that's one of the reasons I've put myself into top physical condition. I practice my karate techniques every day. I'm prepared to protect myself if I need to, and they can say whatever they want. I think that the one gentleman that threatened to, well, he challenged me to a karate match and then promptly threatened to rape me during the karate match. And then the other one challenged me to a mixed martial arts match, despite outweighing me by a good probably 300 pounds or more. I mean, he's got to be, if he's telling the truth about his height, if he's truly 5'9", he has to weigh at least 400 or 500 pounds, easy. Because right now I'm 5'11", and I weigh 190 pounds. I'm like 192.5 pounds or something. So if he is telling the truth that he's 5'9", and he's as heavyset as he is, he's easily 500 pounds. Easily. Which is a great disadvantage to me, but I still accepted the match because I'm 100% positive I would win a mixed martial arts match with somebody that's that ridiculous. Okay? I am a martial artist. I've practiced martial arts from the time I was 10. I've trained law enforcement. I was trained by a Marine hand-to-hand combat instructor, which is actually, and most of his teachers, and he himself, these were all top fighters in the martial arts community, back when martial arts was something in the 60s and 70s and 80s, back when people broke bones, back before they had all this protective equipment, you know. So it's a different world. I was taught by a different kind of martial arts instructor compared to the the way that it's taught these days. And so I was not intimidated at all. But they challenged me and then immediately backed out when I accepted, because they were challenging me from a place of weakness. They were challenging me in the hope that I would turn down the karate match. They were challenging me because they assumed that I was lying about being a martial arts instructor. I was lying about being skilled in martial arts. They had assumed I was lying and that I would back down and make them look tough. I don't back down, especially from people that can't possibly beat me in a martial arts match. There's no way that either of them would beat me in a martial arts match. It would be next to impossible. Unless they cheated. So that was the crux of that. But the point is that the whole basis of their harassment of people like me, people like Adrasdia, or Mary, as I like to call her Mary, but her name's Adrasdia on the thing. But people like me, people like Mary, people like Brandon, who has unfortunately disappeared, people like Alan Powell, people like the gentleman from Static, Static Void. Their attacks on these people come from a place of perpetual weakness, perpetual emptiness. The reason that they're so jealous of my ability to connect with other people is because they don't have that ability. And this is like with psychic vampires in the Satanic Bible. LaVey's concept of a psychic vampire is somebody, one of the things is they will give you things. They give things. They give money. They don't give emotional value. They don't give you emotion. They don't give you creativity. They don't give you essence. They don't give you that back and forth of human connection. This is a sign of a psychic vampire according to LaVey. And I do encourage people, I think I'm going to leave a link in the description if I can find it, a link to the part of the Satanic Bible called Not All Vampires Suck Blood. It's very important to understand this, because this is the cornerstone, one of the cornerstones of narcissism, in the sense that they don't have that humanness, that ability to connect on a human level with other people, which is why they seek to destroy that when it's present. And that's all for this video. I hope people enjoyed it. I kind of went a little off the rails there, but the links are in the description. I do encourage people to follow the links in my videos. They do help to let people understand that these videos are not simply made up. These are real concepts with real basis in reality. And the one thing that people need to understand with Satanism, now I'm not a Satanist anymore. I'm a scientific pantheist. I gave up on Satanism. But the thing with, especially LaVeyan Satanism, it primes the individual to understand reality on reality's terms. And by that I mean that the cool thing about Satanism is it helps you understand that there are two types of reality. There's subjective reality, and that differentiates between, like, it's different from person to person. However, there's also objective reality. And this is where what people need to understand, and this is why I'm a scientific pantheist, is the fact that the facts are the facts. Everybody likes how I say the facts are the facts. Well, the facts are the facts. And the reason I'm a scientific pantheist, why I gave up Satanism years ago, and I came to the understanding that God is nature, nature is God, and that there are universal truths in the major religions, and that's what we need to look for, and that, science is the best way to understand God. The reason I came to that conclusion, I wouldn't say that it was because of Satanism. I was raised a Satanist. So with Satanism, I would say that I had a choice. My father never pushed me to become a Satanist. He was one. I didn't really become a Satanist until I was around 10 or so. But the thing is, Satanism primes the Satanist to understand reality on reality's terms. Some aspects of Satanism are not really too meshed with reality, although that comes into the subjective reality, and the subjective reality is important. However, the closer your subjective reality is to reality, objective reality, I think the better off you do. And I think that's where you get things like cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy. And I think these things do matter. I just don't think that they're being practiced properly. And I do think that, for example, like DBT is kind of like a guide to, it's basically a guide to living objectivism, the concepts of Ayn Rand in many ways. And that's all for this video.